بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعاذنا الله تعالى جميعا من عذاب الله من نار جهنم. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala goes on to mention, after what we've already dealt with, his statement, وَالسُّنَّةُ عِنْدَنَا آثَارُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. وَالسُّنَّةُ تُفَسِّرُ الْقُرْآنِ وهي دلائل القرآن وليس في السنة قياس ولا تدرك لها الأمثال. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala went on to mention that the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is the actual narrations that come to us from him, the athar. The sunnah is not what I, as a revert, come into the religion and then I start doing a particular thing, I start thinking about a particular thing, and then I start saying this thing that I'm thinking about, this thing that I'm doing, this is the sunnah. The sunnah is not your culture, no matter where you come from, with all due respect to your culture and where you come from. The good things about the Somali culture, the Yemenis culture, Arab culture, it's not the sunnah. He said, as-sunnatu atharu rasulillah. As-sunnatu indana atharu rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The sunnah are the narrations that come to us from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You, I, us collectively, Nigerians, wherever you come from, we have not been sent divinely by Allah. Allah created us and we're here, and it's our job and responsibility to follow the sunnah. So the point is, I used to be a Christian, and we used to do Christmas. And on last Thursday past, there's a big holiday in America called Thanksgiving. They cook turkey. They cook with the turkey some stuffing. They make with the turkey and stuffing cranberry sauce. It's a special sauce that they eat. All of the relatives come. I called my mother on that day, Thursday, because I know all of my aunties who are still living, they're going to be at my mother's house. All of my cousins from those aunties and uncles are going to be at my mother's house. So I called them to give them my regards. How are you, this and that. I come into Islam, Abu Usamah. Last Thursday, the sunnah is not. On Thursday past in Birmingham, me and my family, we cooked turkey, me and my family. We cook cranberry sauce, stuffing, and I tell my children, this is what I used to do in America. That's not the sunnah. That's my culture. That's what came from America. That's not the sunnah. The sunnah is what the Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what the Prophet did, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, what took place in his presence, and he was quiet about it. He smiled about it. He said, this is okay. That's the sunnah. Imam Ahmad said, as-sunnatu indana, the sunnah with us, the people who this book is written for, the aqidah of the people of the sunnah, people of Islam. So the people of Islam, the sheikh, my brother, his brother, his son. The Sunnah of the people of Islam is not your culture. But it's what the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not what you think and what I think. It's what the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He went on to mention, ikhwani, that the goal and the objective of the Sunnah is that the Sunnah tufassiru al-Quran. It explains the Quran. And the Sunnah are the dala'il of the Quran. The things that Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that are mujmal, they are general. The Sunnah came to explain how it's to be done, how it's to be understood. And then he finished this particular point by saying there is no qiyas in the Sunnah. No qiyas. And that the Sunnah لا تضربها الأمثال أو لا تضرب بها الأمثال. You can't put your mind in opposition to the Sunnah when your mind can't understand the Sunnah. What the Prophet brought, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 1,400 years ago, he came. He said a lot of things. You were not there, I wasn't there. Many things that have reached us, some of them don't make sense. Some of them, in this life that we live, they don't make sense. The Sunnah can't be in opposition to your mind. If you don't understand that thing that the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you and me being a real mu'min is for you to calm down. I want to say, the leader of the Muslims, he's a criminal, he did this, he's drinking, he's gambling, he's doing this. But the Sunnah told me, don't make khuruj. Don't make khuruj. My mind says, but that doesn't make sense. No, the Sunnah is for you to hold back. Because whether you understand, whether you agree, what the Sunnah says is in the best interest of you as a person and this ummah. Now to explain, ikhwani, some of these points, because this is the 8th point that we've dealt with so far from the fundamentals of the Sunnah. And Imam Ahmad brought some of the basic fundamentals that a person needs to understand what it is to be a Sunni. What does that mean for a person to be on the Sunnah, from Ahl Sunnah? What does it mean? First of all, we have to understand that the Sunnah is the athar, is what the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many people, ikhwani, they come and they make claims. They make claims. Iddi'a, they make claims. Some of the people in the past, they made a lot of poetry about the claims that people make. Like the statement of the famous sha'ir, وَكُلٌّ يَدَّعِي وَصْلًا بِلَيْلَى وَلَيْلَى لَا تُقِرُّهُمْ بِذَلِكَ. Everyone says, later is for me, later is for me. Like the story of Majnun Layla, Baghdad. Every man, Abu Usamah, I love Layla, Layla loves me. Ahmad loves Layla, he says Layla loves him. Bilal, Layla loves him. Everyone is saying, Layla, Layla, that lady Layla, that woman in Baghdad, I love her, and she loves me. But Layla doesn't love any of them. They're just making kalam. It's iddi'a. It's not true. Layla doesn't love them. That line of poetry is applicable here for Muslims. Every Muslim group, every Muslim is claiming, I'm on the Sunnah. My jama'ah is the right way. My masjid is the right way. وَلَيْلَى لَا تُقِرُّهُمْ بِذَاكَ. Layla doesn't agree with them. It's not based upon what you claim. It's based upon the essence of what you're doing. The poet, he said, in the past, الدعوة ما لم تقيم عليها البينات فأبناؤها ادعاء. People who make claims, as long as their claims don't prove the reality of what they're claiming, then that's exactly what it is. It is a mere claim. It is a mere claim. That's a line of poetry of the people of the past. Ikhwati fillah. There were some munafiqun during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. They were saying, we love Allah, we love Rasulullah, we love Allah, and we love Rasulullah. They were saying that in front of Abu Bakr and Umar, Uthman and Ali, radiyallahu anhum. And Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali, they weren't saying that because they knew they loved Allah. They knew they loved Rasulullah. So they weren't saying it. They didn't need to say it because they showed it. But the munafiqun, they kept saying it so that they can get the people to accept it. We love Allah. We love Rasulullah. We love Allah. And then Allah revealed an ayat of the Quran. The scholars called it ayatul mihna. The ayat of proof. The ayat of the imtihan. Allah revealed the ayat, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Tell them, Ya Muhammad, tell your people who were Muslims, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, radiallahu anhu, and tell these munafiqeen, if you really love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you and He will forgive you for your sins. So loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is fasting on the day of Ashura, not just qada. Loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is after praying salat al-dhuhr, making the sunnah prayer. Loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is after making salat of al-asr, making the adhkar of the sunnah. Loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being good fathers, being good husbands, and when we make mistakes, making tawbah. That's the love of an-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, following him. It's not giving lip service. Now I'm going to say something to you, and I don't mean any disrespect by what I'm about to tell you. I don't mean any disrespect. A person who is a Shia, he says, I love Rasulullah, I love Al-Hasan, I love Al-Hussein, I love Fatima, I love Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he hits himself in the head, and he splits open his head with blood and all of that. Although the Nabi said, La tu'adhibu anfusakum. Don't punish yourselves. La taqtulu anfusakum. Inna Allah kana bikum ali. Inna Allah kana bikum rahima. Don't kill yourselves. Allah was ever merciful to you. I don't care how much you scream on the microphone, on the bullhorn. You love Rasulullah. When you have mukhalafa to his sunnah, it's a problem. I'm from Jamaat al-Tabligh. Me, Abu Usamah, from Jamaat al-Tabligh. Okay, what's the balagh? What's the da'wah that I'm calling to? What am I calling to? Am I calling to what the Nabi called to in the correct way and so forth and so on? I can scream, I'm from Jamaat al-Tabligh. But if it's in contradiction to what the Nabi said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm just making a claim. I'm from the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. From the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. But I'm not comfortable, I'm not easy, I'm not with all of my brothers who are Muslims, I'm not gentle with them. I don't have rahmah for them. I'm not loving them. I only love the people from my group. Then I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care. You call yourself, I'm from Jamaat, as-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but you make tanfir, and you're rough and you're tough, and you're not nice, no matter what you call. I don't mean to make anyone upset. I'm telling you, Yawm al-Qiyamah, I'm saying to myself, you say what you want to say. Yawm al-Qiyamah, when Allah raises us up and your deeds are looked at, that's what's going to determine. It's not the iddi'a. It's not just making da'wah. I'm this, I'm this. I'm this, I'm that. Those kuffar, they say, as Allah mentioned in the Quran, لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَتْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَقْتَلٍ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Why do you people say what you don't do? It is hideous, it is hateful to Allah that you say what you don't do. Now Muslims look at us in the world today, and we're telling them we follow the Nabi of Rahmah, but we blow each other up. In our religion, knowledge is up high, but we are not people who have knowledge. In our religion, al-hayat, the life, is sacred. It's sacred as hurma. But we're the first people to kill innocent people, women, children. We say that the Nabi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the khatam of the Anbiya and the Rasul, and he's the afdal al-Anbiya. He's the best one. And the non-Muslims looked at us and say, then why do you people behave like that? We're just making claims. And that's why those claims, they don't impact on people. A long time ago, When the Arabs accepted al-Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, they went to Somalia, Eritrea, Al-Habasha. They went to Indonesia. And because of the mu'amala and the way that those people saw the Arabs, in addition to their dawah, those people became Muslims. We want to take al-Islam to people with bas kalam, just kalam. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So the point here, as-Sunnatu indana atharu an-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sunnah with us, the people of the Sunnah, real Muslims, is what the Prophet says sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and not what you said, not what I said. Not what your jama'ah say, not what my jama'ah say. And not your adat and taqaleed, my culture, your culture, but it's what the Prophet brought sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sunnah, it has a mastariyah, it has the ability, it has the hujjiyah, it has the ability to make haram and halal. The Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it is one of the proofs in al-Islam to make something halal or haram. The Sunnah has a manzila, it has a place. Your culture doesn't have that place. Your mind doesn't have that place, your ideas. That's the point what Imam Ahmad is saying. This has always been a challenge to the Muslims, always. When it came to Abu Bakr, Uthman and Ali, they easily gave up what they were doing. Burying their daughters alive, racism, riba, drinking khamr, zina, they gave it up. Now the Sunnah comes to us, and the person says, yeah, it's 2012. I'm in the UK, this is the West, homosexuality is okay. That could be okay with everybody. No, the Sunnah is what the Prophet brought, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam Ahmad, he went on to explain, ikhwani, that the Sunnah, the job, the function, the role, the objective of the Sunnah is that the Sunnah makes the tafsir of the Quran. It explains the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala mentioned in a number of ayats in the Quran how if the Muslims have some ikhtilaf, they have to refer back to the Quran, they have to refer back to the Sunnah. قُلْ أَتِئُوا اللَّهِ وَأَتِئُوا الرَّسُولِ. Tell them, obey Allah and obey His Messenger. Obey Him in the Sunnah. وَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. Tell them, if you truly believe in Allah and the Messenger, if you people have any ikhtilaf, any differences of opinion, they refer it back to Allah, the Quran, and refer it back to the Sunnah. That is best. وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. That's going to explain the situation to you, what to do and what not to do, what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. Ayat, many ayat of the Quran, explaining to us that the role, the job, the function of the Sunnah is to explain the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jalla ordered us to make salah, but He didn't tell us how to make the salah. He didn't tell us how to raise our hands, how to make ruku, how to make sajda. The Sunnah came and explained that to us. The Quran ordered us how to make hajj. May Allah Ta'ala accept from the people who performed hajj this year from this community and from the Muslim community in general. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept it from you. When you go to hajj, you don't know what to do. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. Allah has the right that everybody, human being, you make hajj to his house for the one who has the ability. If you go to hajj, you don't know what to do. What day do you go to Mina? What day do you go to Mina? And from Mina, what day is Arafah? And what day do you do with Muzdalifah? And what do you do with Muzdalifah? And the Tawaf al-Ifada, how is it done? The Tawaf al-Wida is not even in the Quran concerning the ahkam of al-Hajj. And the Nabi told the people, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ij'alu akhira ahdikum bil-bayt al-Tawaf. Make the very last thing that you do when you perform Hajj or Umrah, make sure the last thing that you do is to make Tawaf around the Kaaba. Tawaf al-Wida. Where is that in the Quran? Quran told us to make Hajj, but it didn't mention these issues. Kissing the black stone, saying between the Yemeni's corner and the Hajar al-Aswad, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Where is that? It comes from the Sunnah, where the Prophet was about to perform the Hajj. He gathered up all of the companions they were looking at, and he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, خُذُوا عَنِّي مَنَاسِكَكُمْ. Take from me my Sunnah, your manasik. Take from me, learn from me how to make Hajj. So they paid attention every step of the way, until the point when he was coming back from al-Hajj. When he was coming back, they went from Medina to Mecca, and they were watching him every step of the way. When he was coming back, as-Zubair ibn Awam, his wife, was about to have a baby. She went to Hajj pregnant, showing that the pregnant woman can make Hajj. She went to Hajj pregnant. Abu Bakr's wife went to Hajj pregnant. When she was coming back, as-Zubair ibn Awam, his wife, started to go into labor. As-Zubair said to his khadim, you stay with my wife. I want to watch Rasulullah. I want to watch everything that he's doing, because he was going to continue to go to Medina. He said, we can't stop. She has to have the baby, and you're responsible for it. He told his khadim, you take care of my wife. Rasulullah told Az-Zubair, la. You stay with your family. You stay with your wife. And that issue goes to show a lot of things. From what it goes to show is the hirs of the companions in trying to find out what did he do from Hajj, from the time he left to the time that he came back. And for that reason, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, in the future, after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Umar used to make Hajj. He used to make his camel go to the exact tree where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam took his camel. He would get off of that camel. He would go to the direct, exact place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam urinated, akramakumullah, because they watched every single thing that he did with diqqah, everything. Where is that in the Quran? Where is that? Where is that in the Quran? It's the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that explains the Quran. Inna anzalna ilayka al-dhikr وَإِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَنَا
إِنَّا نَزَّلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ
لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. We send down to you, Ya Muhammad, the dhikr, the Quran, so that you can explain to the people what was revealed to them. And for that reason, Ikhwani and Imam Ahmad, and other than Imam Ahmad, this book is not called the Sunnah. It's called Usool Sunnah. We're not learning about the Sunnah. This is wajib, this is the Sunnah. We're talking about the fundamentals of the Aqidah of the Muslims, the fundamentals of the Minhaj of the Muslims. This is not a class of the Sunnah. It's different from that. And Imam Ahmad and those scholars like Imam al-Awza'i, like Imam al-Makhul al-Shami before him, they said, as-Sunnatu qadiyatun ala al-Quran. The Sunnah is qadiyah on the Quran. You give a man the Sunnah, this man, he has the Sunnah with the 10 qira'at. You give this man the Sunnah, the authentic Sunnah from the beginning to the end. This man over here with the Quran, he's not going to practice Islam correctly. The man with the Sunnah is going to practice Islam correctly. And Rasulullah, so that no one would misunderstand, sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Sunnah and the Quran, they won't split until you come to the Hawd, Yawm al-Qiyamah. You can't say I only take the Quran, and you can't say I only take the Sunnah. This statement of the scholars is to show you that the Sunnah, it explains the Quran. And the one who has the Quran, he is more in need of the Sunnah than the Sunnah is of the Quran. I hope you brothers understand that point. It's not putting down the Quran. The Quran is the kalam of Allah. You have to memorize it first. It's what the Prophet called to first. It's what he taught first. It's what the companions memorized first. It's the kalam of Allah. You read the Quran, alif lam mim. That's 30 hasan, 30. If you read إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, the hadith, that's not 30 hasana. The Quran is the kalam of Allah. It is greater than the Sunnah. But the Sunnah explains that Quran. And that's the function, the role, the objective, why Allah Azza wa Jal sent His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. And if a person doesn't recognize that, he doesn't understand that, he's not a true Muslim. There are a group of people that call themselves Al-Qur'aniyun. Al-Qur'aniyun, the people who take the Quran only. And Rasulullah told about them. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yushiku an yattaki'u rajulun ala arikatihi. The time is going to come when a man is going to relax on his couch, on his bed, shab'an. He's going to be full from eating. He's philosophical. He's going to say, whatever I find in the Quran, I'll take it. And whatever I find in the Sunnah, I won't take it. Just bring me the Quran, I'll take it. The Nabi, he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ala inni utitu al-Quran wa mithluhu ma'ahu. I've been given the Quran and what is similar to the Quran, meaning the Sunnah. Just as Jibril came down with the Quran, he came down with the Sunnah. But the Sunnah is Rasulullah's kalam, is what he said. Jibril came down and explained to him the Sunnah. Rasulullah just didn't make ijtihad. He made effort and he explained to people the religion with the Quran. Jibril came down and explained to him. And then he explained to the people, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. He went on to say, إِخْوَانِي وَلَيْسَ فِي السُّنَّةِ قِيَاسٍ. There's no qiyas in the Sunnah. Qiyas means analogy. Analogy. Qiyas. And Imam Ahmad is an imam from the fuqaha. And in Islam, what makes things halal and haram, the Quran, the Sunnah, ijma' of the ulama, of the ummah, as well as qiyas. So I want to ask you people very quickly, heroin, cocaine, crack, what's the ruling of that? What's the ruling of heroin, cocaine, crack? What's the ruling? Haram. Was there any haram, cocaine, or crack during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Was there? La wallahi. Was there any qat during the time of the Nabi? No, there was no qat. How do we know haram, cocaine, and crack is haram? Because there's something similar to it in the Quran. That is what? Huh? Alcohol. Alcohol. Khamr. Khamr. When you drink it, the same thing that happens to you when you drink khamr happens to you when you do those other narcotics and drugs. That's called al-qiyas. This ruling is in Islam. That ruling, we don't find it in the Quran and Sunnah. But because that thing is similar to this thing, we give it the same ruling. Al-qiyas. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in many ayats, فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولَى الْأَبْصَارِ. Oh, you people who reflect, people who have intellect, pay attention. Fir'aun, the people of Lut, they did this, they did that. If you do the same thing, what happened to them is going to happen to you. Many people think that Europeans, white people, many people think America, Europeans have always been on top. That's not the case. Historically, in terms of civilization, people of color established civilization a long time ago. They dropped the ball. Fir'aun and other than Fir'aun. In Ethiopia, in Kenya, they had old civilizations. They were dhalama, fasaqa. And as a result of that, they were wiped away, they were punished. And then white people came and now they're in control. Same thing that happened to those people of color before. If white people do it, same thing's going to happen to them. That's qiyas. As you do, it's going to be done unto you. So the point here is, qiyas is a masdar that's mu'tabar in al-Islam. It makes something haram and halal. It has its conditions. It has its arkan. It has its shurut. It has its muwasafat. No doubt about that. And Imam Ahmad knows that. And Imam Ahmad knows that. This is not what he's talking about. When he said there's no qiyas in the Sunnah, he's not talking about that. That qiyas, the qiyas that he's talking about, when he says Sunnah is, there's no qiyas in Aqidah. You can't use your mind in Aqidah to reject things. For an example, listen to these examples. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, he told the community, And one of the companions was sitting there. He said that the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, al-wudu mimma massathu an-nar. If something is touched by fire, you have to make wudu. So right now you're sitting and you make wudu, you pray. In the beginning of Islam, if you ate some bread, right now your wudu is broken. If you ate meat that was cooked by fire, your wudu was broken. In the beginning of Islam, if you ate something that was touched by fire, it broke your wudu. That's what the Nabi said. That hadith Abu Hurairah said. One of the companions said, hey, you mean to tell me if I bring some water and it's cold and I warm the water up and then I make wudu from the water that's been touched by fire, then I don't have wudu? Abu Hurairah said, Ya Ahi, don't use your mind like that, your intellect, to push away the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what Imam Ahmad is referring to. No qiyas in the Sunnah. The Sunnah means the ghaybiyat, the things you don't understand. There was a lady, her name was Mu'adha al-Shaybaniya. And Mu'adha, she was a student of Aisha radiyallahu anha. She said, Ya al-Mu'mineen, I see us women in al-Islam, if we have our periods, akramakumullah, our hayda, if we have our hayda, we don't make up the salah, but we make up fasting. So if one of us has a period, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, after Ramadan, she has to make up those days. She says salah is more important than fasting. So why don't we make up fasting and it's more important than the Psalm? Aisha said to her, and she was upset and angry, Ahururiyatu anti? Are you from the Hururiyah? From the Khawarij? She said, that's what the Prophet told us to do. He told us we have to make up fasting and we don't have to make up the prayer. Don't use that qiyas. Prayer is better, so if we make up the fasting, we should make up the prayer. The Nabi didn't tell you to do that. The Hururiyah, they were the Khawarij. They were the people who were present during the time of the companions. They started saying things like, Ali ibn Abi Talib is a kafir. We're from the awliya of Allah, and Ali is a kafir. And the text and the dalil from the Quran and the Sunnah show that Ali and the people who were with him, they're from the awliya of Allah. So Aisha said, are you from those people? Those people who they find it easy to put the Quran and the Sunnah under the table. The Quran and the Sunnah is telling you, Ali ibn Abi Talib and his companions who were with him, they are the companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. What are you talking about? That's the qiyas that Imam Ahmad is talking about. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, Lo kana ad-din bil-ra'i. If this religion was based upon your intellect, when you do mess on your socks, on your khuffain, he said if the religion was based upon your intellect, we would wipe under the sock and not over the sock. But the religion is not based upon your intellect. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam making things easy for us. He allowed the Muslims to wipe over what Muawiyah called the tasakhin. The tasakhin is any and everything that makes your foot warm. These socks that I have on, black, white, green, purple, yellow, leather, wool, your shoes, your boots, the Arabs call the tasakhin, anything that you put on your foot to protect your foot and to keep your foot protected and warm. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself either wiped over all of that or his companions wiped over all of that. So when he wanted to wipe over his socks, the khufs, the leather ones, he doesn't want to take it off because he's traveling. He doesn't want to take it off to make it easy. What did he do? He would wipe on the top of the khuf, on the top. Ali said if this religion was based upon our intellect, we would wipe under the bottom. Why? Because under the bottom is where the dirt is. We're walking on the earth. It's the bottom that's getting and collecting the dirt. Ali said, but that's what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to do. It's not based upon your intellect. Similar to that is what happened in the majlis of the Khalifa at that time, Harun al-Rashid. He was in the majlis with a number of ulama from the ulama al-hadith. One of the scholars started telling them about a hadith concerning the qadr, that everything is written before it happens. Our being here is written before we came here. If you start using your intellect, you're going to push that away. So they started speaking and debating about this issue. One of the scholars wanted to prove everything is by the qadr. So he brought the hadith inside Bukhari and Muslim, in which the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ihtajja Musa ala Adam. Musa overpowered Adam in the argument and the discussion. Musa and Adam started to have a debate, a discussion. Pay attention. Musa said, Adam, you're the father of mankind. Allah created you with his own two hands. He put you into the Jannah. And because of you, we got thrown out of Jannah. Mankind, we're expelled out of Jannah. Our children, they have problems. Our wives have problems. I'm trying to get my jinsiyah to all of these problems. It's from you, Adam. Because of you. When we were in Jannah, we didn't have these problems. We were in utopia, chilling out. You got us kicked out. Musa said to Adam, do you blame me for something that was decreed and written upon me to happen 50,000 years before Allah created the heavens and the earth? That was something that was written. I had to fall in. I had to do it. Don't blame me. So the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about the discussion, Adam overcame Musa with that. Don't blame me. That's something that I had to fall into. One of the people sitting, when he heard that hadith, he said, what? One of the people said, what? Do you know how far the distance was in terms of years and history? Adam was there and Musa was way over there. How did they have a discussion? The Khalifa Harun al-Rashid said, he tells you that the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sahih Bukhari, he tells you that the Prophet said this, and you come and you say, how is Musa and Adam? That's the meaning of what Imam Ahmad is saying here. Don't bring your mind. The Muslim woman, she comes and she says, after her husband gets married to a second wife, she says, I wish I can have two husbands. Don't do that with your mind. Don't do that. Allah and His Messenger, Allah, and then His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they decide an issue, it's just for us to accept it, and that's it. That's what Imam Ahmad is saying. Why is he saying that? This is the question. Why is he mentioning this? It's because of those ayat of the Quran and those ahadith of the Sunnah in which Allah described Himself. Ar-Rahmanu al-Arsh istawa. Allah is over His throne. Muslims came during the time of Imam Ahmad and they started to say, how is Allah over His throne? If Allah is over His throne, then something must be over Allah. If Allah is over His throne, then He must be sitting down. If Allah is over His throne, then what's behind Him and what's in front of Him? And now, in the latter times, if Allah is over His throne, then the world is round. So really, in essence, Allah is under, and He's upside down under the world sometimes, and He's over the world sometimes. Don't use your brain like that. Don't do that. The deen is not based on that. The deen is based upon the athar. What the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, take it and go with it. Why did Imam Ahmad mention this? Why did he mention this? No qiyas. Because some of these ayat and some of these ahadith, you just have to accept them as a Muslim. The Prophet, he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Inna Allah khalaqa Adama ala suratihi." Allah created Adam in His own image. The scholars of the past, they didn't try to figure that out. They just took it and just kept it moving. The people today, they say, that hadith, we know that it's authentic, but we don't accept it. Because Allah didn't create it. That's what Imam Ahmad is talking about. Don't use your intellect, don't use your brain in these types of issues to reject the Quran and the Sunnah. It doesn't mean that you can't or you shouldn't use your brain. It doesn't mean that. It means to use your brain in the way that Allah has allowed. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَقْفَالُهَا. Don't they reflect on the Quran? Don't they use their brains? Or do they have locks over their hearts? You have to use your brain. You have to use your intellect to figure out the religion. But you have to realize, you have to understand the hudud, the boundaries of the brain. And Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he went on to end these 5 or 6 points. He said, وَلَا تُدْرَكُ بِالْأُقُولِ وَلَا الْأَهْوَاءِ إِنَّمَا هُوَ الْإِتِّبَاعُ وَتَرْكُ الْهَوَى. He said that the Sunnah, the Quran, the Sunnah, these ahadith, these ayat, they are not understood based upon the intellect. Your intellect is naqis, is it's imperfect, it's naqis, it's
incomplete.
Unperfect.
It's incomplete. It's limited. Your intellect is limited. I don't think those of us who are married here, everybody who's married, his wife and his children, are the most important things to him. Even if his wife isn't, his children are. But everybody here, his wife and children, most important thing to him. He doesn't know what's going on with his wife and children right now. He has no idea what's going on with them right now. And they're the most important issue to him. Some people, our money is important. People are stealing our money right now with the games that they play. You don't even have an intellect to figure out and to protect the things that are most close to you and most important. When it comes to Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah, He didn't want and He didn't mean for us to understand everything. He didn't create you to understand everything about your existence. He created you to understand a lot about why you've been created and what to do and how to do it. But He didn't create you for everything. And that's why one of the hikmah, one of the reasons of Yawmul Hisab is that people who believe in the ghaib, Yawmul Qiyamah, many things, these things are going to be made known to them. And when they're made known to them, the people who believed in them without understanding them, they just believed in it blindly. They believed in it because that was the mutalib for them. They'll get a reward as a result of that. So never believe and never think that Allah made you mukallaf. You have to know everything. You have to understand everything. Which brings us to the next point of what Imam Ahmad mentioned in his book. And that is Al-Iman and the Qadr. Al-Iman and the Qadr. Before the Iman and the Qadr, look what happened in terms of the intellect. During the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 2 women, they got into a fight from his companions. They had a misunderstanding. And one of the women was pregnant. As a result of being pregnant, she was slow, she was heavy. So the one who wasn't pregnant hit her, punched her, threw a rock at her, and caused her baby to die. When the awliya of the lady whose baby died went to the Nabi and told him what happened, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he judged that the lady who made the baby die had to pay the diya. Her and her awliya had to pay the money. So the one who threw the rock, her family came. And one of the men, he was a new Muslim, when he heard that they have to pay for his sister, his daughter, his cousin, killing that woman, he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Kayfa ugrima man la shariba wa la akal wa la nataqa wa la istahalla famithlu hadha yutal." He made some poetry, but the poetry, it means something. He said, how is it that the one who didn't eat and he didn't drink, the one who didn't speak and he didn't scream out, why is it and how is it that we have to pay money for him? When the Prophet heard this poetry, and the poetry had a meaning, he made a point. The Prophet ﷺ said about his poetry, "Nahada من إخوان الكهان بسبب سجعه الذي سجعه. This man who said this kalam, he's from the brothers of the soothsayers. People who deal with the jinn and the unseen and black magic. He's from their brothers because of this poetry, this rhyme that he gave. The reason why he said that is, Rasulullah gave a ruling. Your people killed that baby, therefore you have to come and pay for the diya, for killing that baby. The man came and said, what? Why do we have to pay for a baby? He never ate, he never drank, he's not a human being. Why do we have to pay money? It was his mind going against the Sunnah. It was his intellect going against the Sunnah. So when we come and someone gives you proof, do this, do that, do this, don't come and become a mu'arad, a person who is in opposition to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. After that, Imam Ahmad, he went to the issue of the different aspects that make a person from as-Sunnah. And he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَمِنَ السُّنَّةِ اللَّازِمَةِ الَّتِي مَنْ تَرَكَ مِنْهَا خَصْلَةً وَلَمْ يَقْبَلْهَا وَيُؤْمِنْ بِهَا لم يكن من أهلها الإيمان بالقدر خيره وشره والتصديق بالأحاديث فيه والإيمان بها لا يقال لما ولا كيف إنما هو التصديق والإيمان بها. He's going to mention now a number of the finer details, the issues where different groups went against the way of what the companions were upon, whether they were from the Khawarij, whether they were from the Qadariyah, whether they were from the Jabariyah, whether they were from the Jahmiyah, whether they were from the Mu'tazila, whether they were from the people of the Tashayyu', the Shiite. And Imam Ahmad, he starts to mention the details now of different issues of how people opposed what the companions were upon, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. So we're not going to deal with that today, inshallah. We'll deal with that next week. But we will open up the door and the opportunity and the floor for any questions that you brothers may have, especially the questions dealing with, concerning with what we just mentioned. Akhi, tfaddal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What about the situation when we find two hadith and they almost contradict to the meaning of one another? For instance, standing in prayer, joining the feet, and the other hadith says it's not important. So what should we do in such a case?
My brother, what's your name, Akhi Kareem? What's your name?
Shu'aib.
Shu'aib wants to know the Sunnah. We don't push it away with our intellect, but what if we have two hadith that comes to us? One is saying one thing and the other one is saying another thing. Obviously, something has to be done. Would a person be considered to be pushing away the hadith if that were to happen? First, Akhi Shu'aib and Ummat al-Islam, we should know, as we mentioned, Imam al-Awza'i, Maqbul al-Shami, they said, the Sunnah and the Quran, both of them are from Allah. Jibreel came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the Sunnah, just as he came with the Quran. And Allah said about the Quran, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If it was from other than Allah, you would have found in a lot of ikhtilaf, like the Torah and the Injil. If the Sunnah wasn't from Allah, you would have found in a lot of ikhtilaf. There are some ikhtilaf in the Quran. There are. And if you don't know your religion, you won't know what to do. There are some ikhtilaf in the Sunnah. And if you don't know your religion, you won't know what to do. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَحْزَنُونَ. Those people who believe from the believers, Muslims, and those people believe from the Jews and the Christians and the Sabi'een, those people who do good works from them, Yawm al-Qiyamah, they won't be afraid, nor will they be sad, because they'll be in Jannah. Why are we fasting today? Why do we fast Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Why? Because the Nabi was told, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this is the day yesterday, Ashura, the day that Allah Azza wa Jal helped Musa and the believers who were Musa over Fir'aun. He said, نَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِمُوسَى مِنْهُمْ. We're closer to Musa than them. Musa is our Nabi. And those who believed with Musa from the Yahud are our brothers. Radiyallahu anhum. Rahimahumullah. All of them are our brothers. As for the Yahud today, they're not our brothers. The Yahud are oppressing the Palestinians and all, they're not our brothers. So that ayah goes to show that the Jews and the Christians, some of them are going to be in Jannah. But then a person reads that ayah, and then he comes to the statement of Allah, Inna Dina Inda Allah Islam. The religion with Allah is Islam. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرُ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Anyone who chooses a religion other than Islam, it won't be accepted from him. Yawm al-Qiyamah, will be from the losers. Someone says, look, this ayah said the Jews and the Christians are in Jannah. And this ayah over here says that they're not in the Jannah. There's a contradiction. No, there's no contradiction. These ayat are talking about, there's an explanation. Shu'aib. These ayat over here are talking about the Jews and the Christians before Rasulullah came. And these ayat over here are talking about after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's no contradiction. So there are contradictions, but there's an explanation. As for the Sunnah, sometimes there are contradictions because one thing is abrogated and the other thing is not. It is the thing that abrogated it. There was a time, in al-Islam, there was a time when if the baby drank from the mother, he had to drink 10 times. He grabs it 10 times and he lets it go by himself. She doesn't do like this and take him off. If he did that 10 times, he becomes her son. He becomes her son. And then that was abrogated from 10 to 5. So over here, the hadith said 10, over here said 5. Both of them cite Bukhari and Muslim. It's contradiction. 10, 5, two different numbers. This is abrogated. And this is the one that's still standing. Like the hadith that we were just mentioning earlier in today's dars. In the beginning of Islam, in the beginning, you have to make wudu from anything that touched the fire. But now, you don't have to make wudu from anything that touched the fire. You only have to make wudu from one thing. And all of our Somali brothers know what that one thing is, so we don't even have to mention it. The Somalis know what that one thing, if you eat it, you have to make wudu. What is it? Camel. They say it very quickly, camel. So there is abrogation and nasakh. And then we have the issue of what? We have the issue of this hadith that says yes, and this hadith says no. It's a contradiction. And that's because the one that says yes is sahih, and the one that says no is da'if. So there's no contradiction. No contradiction. And then we have some issues that are just difficult to understand. Some are difficult. There's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, anyone who touches his penis while he has wudu, if he touches his penis, akramakumullah, by touching your penis, you break your wudu. You break it. And then there's another authentic hadith that says, anyone who touches his penis, he said, what if we touch our penis? He said, it's a piece of you. It's like your head, it's like your arm. If you touch it, it doesn't break your wudu. So that is hard to understand sometimes. The scholars, based upon their fiqh, they said, it's better to make the i'mal of the nas than the ihmal of the nas. You have to try to work with it. So they harmonize. They said anyone who touches it with shahwa, it broke his wudu. But anyone who touches it inadvertently, by mistake, drying off, then it doesn't break his wudu. So there's no contradiction of the naql sahih and the aql. The nas as-sarih and the aql as-sahih. There's no contradiction between the Quran and the Sunnah and the intellect. Any more questions? Ikhwati fillah. Akhi, my brother.
My name is Muhammad Zahid. I'm a student, mashallah, very good talk. I missed last week, unfortunately, the talk. Actually, when I listened to your first talk on the first week, I was a very big fan of you. I listened to it and very impressed. Then I looked on the internet some videos, I find one thing actually which gave me a little bit in my heart that, for example, in one video you said that Imam Abu Hanifa used to make a lot of mistakes in the narration of hadith, and scholars criticize Imam Abu Hanifa for a number of reasons. One is that in hadith he was da'if, weak. In hadith he was not a reliable narrator. Now you are mashallah sheikh and you discussed this and some other sheikh gave the reply. My actually concern is this, the people who follow the fiqh, Imam Abu Hanifa, whether they are wrong or the scholars, I mean, they are not understanding this, the fiqh is right to follow, because we have, not anybody can understand the hadith and Quran directly, we need the interpretation. So what's your take on this actually?
I find it a bit disturbing that we would deal with this at this particular time. The only reason why I find it disturbing is that in reality it's an easy issue, it's not complicated, but to present it in front of the people, I think it's not the right time. But it's really simple. Let me say to you, as Allah will raise me up Yawm al-Qiyamah about what I believe and about what just happened. As I said in that lecture, Abu Hanifa is an ayah from the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jalla. I said that in that very lecture that you seem to have disregarded. I said in that very lecture that, in the beginning of the lecture, that the scholars like Abdullah ibn Mubarak, who is Amir al-Mu'minin Hadith, he said, Nas iyalun ala Abi Hanifa. The people are indebted to Abu Hanifa in fiqh, because he was the first one to come, and he was the first one in Islam to say the chapter of Tahara, the chapter of Wudu, the chapter of Salah, and he canonized al-fiqh. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak, a scholar of hadith, that was his statement. And I explained to the people the virtues of Imam Abu Hanifa, and how Imam Abu Hanifa is one of the 4 Imams who are mu'tabarun, accepted. The Ummah accepted him. The Ummah accepted him. And I explained so many things about the virtues of Imam Nu'man ibn Thabit, radiyallahu anhu. I'm disturbed that I have brothers in this religion who Abu Hanifa and protecting him and being angry for him is bigger than the companions of Usool. The people come and they hit their heads and they curse Aisha left, right, and we don't see anything about that. But when it comes to Abu Hanifa, we go crazy. That Abu Hanifa, I don't believe he had wudu for 60 years, and I say these things like that. I don't believe that. There's no dalil for that, and people get upset about that. But about Aisha, they don't get upset. That Imam who you talk, Mumtaz al-Haq, he don't get upset about that. He doesn't bring talks about that. This is the disturbing thing as a revert to this religion. Where are our priorities? Is it the companions or is it Abu Hanifa? So me, Abu Hanifa is an Imam of Islam, but the scholars of Islam, like Imam Bukhari in his book, Tarikh al-Kabir, he was the one who said, Imam Abu Hanifa made a lot of mistakes in hadith, and he's da'if in hadith. Nah, Usamah. Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, Abu Bakr al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, he was the one in his big book, Tarikh al-Baghdad, who said Imam Abu Hanifa was da'if in hadith. And Imam Ibn Hibban, in his book, Kitab al-Majruhin, not Usamah, he was the one who said Imam Abu Hanifa was da'if in hadith. So for someone to come and say that this miskin slave, Abu Usamah, who can defend himself, not miskin in the sense that I need anybody to feel sorry for me, this miskin slave, Tuwaylib al-Ilm, he said it. I didn't say that. I said what the scholars of Islam said. What the scholars, like Imam Ali ibn Nadini, who said Imam Abu Hanifa is da'if in hadith, as Imam al-Tirmidhi, Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi mentioned in his book, Al-Jarh wal-Ta'dil wal-Ilm, that Imam Abu Hanifa is weak in hadith, not Abu Usamah, ya akhi. So my advice to you, be fair, be just, I'm going to end this majlis here. Tuesday, I'm going to Brunel University, inshallah. Brunel University on Monday. The people there, the Muslims, invited me to come here and talk about the virtues of Aisha. 2 weeks ago, when they advertised it, the homosexuals of Brunel University, after 2 or 3 days, they heard I was coming, they started jumping up and down. Here's the guy who came and he said, the guy who said, kill all homosexuals. Throw the homosexual off of the roof. In the program, dispatches. They went to the chancellor of the university and said, this guy wants to kill all of the homosexuals. And this. Brunel University is an institute of higher learning. Higher learning. I would think that those students are intellectual and academic, and that they would do their homework, and that they would, before saying that I said something, check it out, as Allah commanded the Muslims in the Quran. إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. When news comes to you, ascertain. So my question to you, I ask you by Allah, did you listen to my talk from the beginning to the end? Simple question. Did you listen?
I listened few
Hold on. Did you listen to my talk from the beginning to the end? That's a simple question.
Yes.
Okay.
I did many talks. I did one talk.
If you listen to my talk about Abu Hanifa from the beginning to the end, then I don't know how.
My question is,
Hold on.
does it bring any
Hold on 1 minute.
benefit
Hold on 1
by
minute.
discussing such?
I don't understand how you or other than you can come and miss all of those good things that were mentioned and then bring in what the scholars said about Abu Hanifa, nasihatin to the ummah, telling the ummah the final result. Abu Hanifa is an imam from al-Islam, but he doesn't deserve to be blindly followed. He doesn't deserve to be worshipped, and we shouldn't go overboard, but we should respect that man. So, in concluding, the people in Brunel University, the homosexuals, they made a big issue to try to stop the talk from going forward on Tuesday. When the Muslims went to the chancellor, they said, hey, chancellor, we have freedom of speech. Look and see what the guy said. The chancellor, Kafir, he looked, and he found in the program, dispatches that came on Channel 4, he found Channel 4 took my words out of context. I never said what they said. Never said what they said. And the non-Muslim chancellor said, let the Sunnah go forth and don't stop it. So my point is, we can disagree, you and me, we can disagree. I was just telling the brother who picked me up today, Fadl, I told him about you. I said, there's a brother who came to me before and you're saying you're a fan. Don't be a fan of me. Be a fan of the person who's saying, قال الله وقال رسوله وفهم الصحابة. Allah said, His Prophet said, and His companions said. And that's what happened. As for disagreeing, Rafal al-Yadayn, for an example, you say no, I say yes. You're not my enemy for that. You're not my enemy. But if you say Aisha's a Zaniya, I'm going to be an enemy to you. If you say that Abu Hanifa should be worshipped, Abu Hanifa, everything good and nothing bad, I'm saying no, that's not consistent with the religion. So let's stay balanced. Let's stay balanced. That's okay. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm sorry for throwing the thing, Ikhwani. It's just so we wanted just to make Afwan, Sheikh Ahmad, Afwan. I do the thing up in the sky and stuff. If there's some munafiq here for the government who's watching what I'm saying, they're going to say, he threw the bomb, but it didn't go off. He threw the bomb, but it didn't go off. Assalamu alaikum.